So now we're going to go on to 2 Nephi chapter 17.
And it came to pass in the days of Ahaz, the son of Jotham, the son of Uzziah, king of Judah, that Rezin, king of Syria, and Pekah, the son of Remaliah, king of Israel, went up toward Jerusalem to war against it, but could not prevail against it. And it was told the house of David, saying, Syria is confederate with Ephraim, and his heart was moved, and the heart of his people, as the trees of the wood are moved with the wind.
Really, chapters 6, 7, and 8 of Isaiah, which is 16, 17, and 18 in 2 Nephi, is more of what's happening at the time of Isaiah, right? So it's a combination of things that are happening for real and things that will be happening in the very short term right after his time. So these do not come down to today. These do not talk about, say, Zion or anything in the future or even today. It's a time then, right? So, but there are a couple of things in here, which again is the reason why it was put in these chapters, which we'll point out when we get to it. Okay, we're gonna add some more countries now. I wrote too big, but I don't know. All right. So we're gonna have the rest of Israel, right, which is living in the country of Israel. Okay, and at this particular time, it's also, for whatever reason, going by the name of Ephraim, which is really weird because Ephraim was one of Joseph's sons, but nonetheless, it's not necessarily an uncommon name. And the capital of this country of Israel was Samaria. Yeah, Joey wanted to know all these things. So that's the other half of Israel at this time, right? It was the 2 tribes here, 10 tribes here. I'll even give you a little 10 up here for fun. Any of these names could be used in these chapters. That's why I'm writing them all up here, because otherwise it gets really confusing. Now, continuing, okay, we have a country that's called Syria. All right, and the capital of Syria is Damascus. Okay. Now we need kings for these places, don't we? All right, so first of all, after King Uzziah died at the time of Isaiah, his son Jotham took over for a little while, and then he died, and then his son Ahaz became the king. Okay. For Israel, we had a man named Remaliah, and when he died, his son Pekah becomes the king. And finally, over in Syria, we have a guy named Rezin as the king. Yeah, I think that's all I need for right now. Yeah, that'll do. Okay. Now, believe me, you'll be happy that we did this in a little bit. Okay. All right. That's all that I'll say. Okay. Because I thought like I'm expecting you to go home quoting Remaliah and Rezin and whatever. That's not the point. All right. So just so we can follow what these chapters are saying, what these verses are saying. All right. So let's look at verse 1 again. Okay. In the days of Ahaz, the son of Jotham, who was the son of Uzziah, who was the king of Judah. All right. And at that time, that Rezin, who was the king of Syria, and Pekah, the son of Remaliah, who was the king of Israel, went up toward Jerusalem and war against it, but could not prevail against it. All right, so basically these two decided that they were going to get together, and they came to fight against this one, against Jerusalem. See, Syria is confederate with Ephraim, so Syria is confederate with Ephraim, so again, these two are together. And so Ahaz, who's hearing this, his heart was moved, all right, as he hears that this is happening. In other words, he's a little nervous hearing that these two are coming against him, okay? So this is all happening at the time of Isaiah. Now, Isaiah's going to come into the story. He's going to talk to Ahaz, and so that's why he gives this little background. That's why I'm giving you all the background so you kind of understand what's happening, right? And I'll tell you ahead of time that the reason this is happening is that these two wanted to go fight against yet another country called Assyria, and this guy didn't want to join them. So instead, they're going to come and try to bounce him out as the king. They're going to try to attack Jerusalem and bounce him out as the king because they want to make a big army and go fight against the other enemy.
Then said the Lord unto Isaiah, Go forth now to meet Ahaz, thou and Shushjabab thy son, at the end of the conduit of the upper pool in the highway of the fuller's field. And say unto him, Take heed and be quiet, fear not, neither be faint-hearted for the 2 tails of these smoking firebrands, for the fierce anger of Rezin with Syria and of the son of Remaliah. because Syria, Ephraim, and the son of Remaliah have taken evil counsel against thee, saying, Let us go up against Judah and vex it, and let us make a breach therein for us, and set a king in the midst of it, yea, the son of Tabeel.
Now those verses actually say what I just said. Wait, they're not, just before that. Okay, but so the Lord tells Isaiah to go talk to Ahaz and tell him what's going on, right? And tell him, don't worry, I'll be with you, right? But be aware of what's happening here, that all these ones are going to come against you. Now, if you look at all those names, it looks like about 6 different armies are coming against him, but it's really only 2, right? As you can see, it's all different names for the same ones. Okay, that's why I did our chart here. It says for Rezin with Syria is that, the son of Remaliah is Pekah. Okay, and then Syria again, Ephraim, which is Israel, and what's the other one? And the son of Remaliah again, which is Pekah. I don't know why I call him the son of Remaliah. Pekah would be so much quicker, but anyway. So these 2 are coming, all right, and they're saying this in verse 6. Well, let's go up against Judah, okay, which is that one, and vex it, and let us make a breach therein for us, and set a king in the midst of it, yea, the son of Tabeel. So whoever Tabeel is, they want Tabeel's son to be the king, right? So they want to come and kill Ahaz and put their own stooge in place, right? This way they can get together with them and do what they want to do with the other war, right? So that's what this is all about. It's all about power and taking over and so forth. Okay, but you can see it says God is speaking to Ahaz and trying to tell him what to do.
Thus saith the Lord God, It shall not stand, neither shall it come to pass. For the head of Syria is Damascus, and the head of Damascus Rezin, and within 65 years shall Ephraim be broken, that it be not a people. And the head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is Remaliah's son. If ye will not believe, surely ye shall not be established.
God is giving some prophecy here, right? He's saying, yeah, this is what they want to do, but this is not going to happen, right? It's not going to happen, because basically that's not the will of God, all right? Things were set up the way they were for a reason, and this is not how it's going to happen. And then, again, you can see it says for the head of Syria is Damascus and Rezin, right? So, and now within 65 years, which is 65 years, shall Ephraim, which is now this one, be broken, that it be not a people. Basically, you don't want to tie your card to this one, because they got trouble coming, right? And sure enough, within 65 years, that this group was attacked and carried off to Assyria, and eventually they were split up and scattered. Hence the scattering of the 10 tribes of Israel, the ones that are considered the lost tribes today. That's how they got lost, right? They were captured and brought to Assyria and then dispersed all throughout the world within 65 years of when this is written. Okay, so that was God's prophecy. Don't join in with this group, because things happen to them that you don't want to be a part of. So yeah, so Ahaz was cool with that. I mean, he wasn't too swift at serving God, but he understood that one. Right? Don't tie your cart to a losing team. Not a good idea.
Moreover, the Lord spake again unto Ahaz, saying, Ask thee a sign of the Lord thy God. Ask it either in the depths or in the heights above. But Ahaz said, I will not ask, neither will I tempt the Lord. And he said, Hear ye now, O house of David. Is it a small thing for you to weary men, but will ye weary my God also?
The Lord speaking to Ahaz, first of all, we should understand that Isaiah, as the prophet, is really the conduit at this point. So, I mean, he's the one really speaking on behalf of God as he's speaking to Ahaz. He's the one delivering the message. All right, so as he says that, he's telling him, why don't you pray? Pray for a sign from God, what you need to do here. Pray for direction. We preach to our people, right? We say, pray for the Lord's direction in your life and such. So, pray for a sign, what you need to do. Well, Ahaz, no, I don't want it. Right? He says, I don't want to tempt the Lord, right? But basically, he was not looking for God's direction. He had his own agenda of what he wanted to do. And so, how often do we find that even in life today, that we encourage people to pray for God's direction, and so, but really they're not looking for God's direction. They're maybe looking for God to put his stamp of approval on what they want to do anyway, right? But not really looking for God to say, well, take this path instead of that path. It's more, I want to take this path, God, and I want you to bless me in this path that I chose and I want to go on. Right? So he's not looking to ask God for direction. He just wants to do what he wants to do at this point. Okay. So you hear Isaiah's response at the end. It's one thing for you to talk that way to me, but talk that way to God, then not too cool. Not too good of an idea.
Therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive, and shall bear a son, and shall call his name Immanuel. Butter and honey shall he eat, that he may know to refuse the evil and to choose the good.
Okay, now you perhaps see the reason why this particular chapter is chosen to be included here, right? That this is the verse that's quoted in Matthew in particular, right? That where it says, "Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and call his name Immanuel." So this is a prophecy of Christ, and understanding that would come through the lineage of this particular people. Okay, because you can remember that Ahaz is the king of Judah, and this is the lineage that Christ would come from. So now he's handing him a prophecy of Christ, of a Messiah in the future that would come through this lineage, and to understand that this is what's in the future for your people. And now as I keep going back to remind us that the Nephi people are reading and hearing the same thing, so as they're hearing that, they're understanding that Israel in general will generate the Messiah this way.
For before the child shall know to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land that thou abhorrest shall be forsaken of both her kings. The Lord shall bring upon thee and upon thy people and upon thy father's house days that have not come from the day that Ephraim departed from Judah, the king of Assyria. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall hiss for the fly that is in the uttermost part of Egypt, and for the bee that is in the land of Assyria. And they shall come and shall rest all of them in the desolate valleys, and in the holes of the rocks, and upon all thorns, and upon all bushes.
All right, this is a little bit more prophecy for the short term from after when they're talking about. In verse 16 it says, "For behold, for before the child shall know to refuse the evil and choose the good." Now, if you just read that part alone, when does a child know how to refuse evil and choose good? They reach the age of understanding, right? So when they reach a certain age, that they would have that understanding, they would know to choose right from wrong. So what he's really saying here is that from now until such a time as a child today would be old enough to understand what's right from wrong, this is what's going to happen, right? So instead of saying 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we're going to put it that way, right? And it says, "The land that thou abhorrest shall be forsaken of both her kings." And 3 years after this was written, this was said, Rezin is killed, Pekah is killed. Okay, within 3 years after this is written. So within a very short time, it says the king of the two kings of the land that thou abhorrest will be gone, right? So that was the prophecy given, and that it was fulfilled within a very short time. So those are killed. So again, even further reason why you're not going to necessarily align yourself with these other countries, because they're not going to do so hot either. Their kings are going to get killed, and they're going to lose in this war, so you don't want to be part of that particular battle either. In 17, all right, but it says, "But since you're not going to follow what the Lord is telling you to do, right, then your country's not going to get off so good either," and which again is a lesson to us if we don't follow what God wants us to do, right? Then in 17 it says, "The Lord shall bring upon thee and thy people that you're going to be attacked by the country of Assyria," right? Which is again what happened in the very short time after that they came and they attacked this country of Judah, and they had heavy losses from that. So there was a punishment for them as well for not following God's direction, right? And the other part here, 18 and 19, talks about Egypt and Assyria, which were, I guess, two opponents, and Judah was kind of in the middle. So it was kind of like where they sometimes would fight over them as like a pawn in the middle of their two countries. And so it says they're going to be fighting over you because I'm not going to protect your country through this now.
In the same day shall the Lord shave with a razor that is hired by them beyond the river, by the king of Assyria, the head and the hair of the feet, and it shall also consume the beard. And it shall come to pass in that day, a man shall nourish a young cow and 2 sheep, and it shall come to pass for the abundance of milk they shall give, he shall eat butter. For butter and honey shall everyone eat that is left in the land.
I mean, what's going to be described here in 20 through 25, which we'll read the other parts in a minute also, is really what's going to happen, what was going to happen to that country when they were attacked and they were going to be left kind of desolate for a period of time, right? And so for example, in 21, when it says that in that day, a man shall nourish a young cow and 2 sheep, basically saying that typically they would get their food by growing it in the farming and so forth, and that was going to be so wiped out that he's going to have to depend on the sheep and the cow to give you milk and and butter and honey, and that's all you're gonna have to eat for a while, because you're not even gonna be able to grow your own food, you're not gonna be able to eat meat or anything, so, because that's how desolate the country was gonna be. So just kind of describe the punishment that came from not doing what God wanted them to do at that time.
And it shall come to pass in that day, every place shall be, where there were 1,000 vines at 1,000 silverlings, which shall be for briars and thorns. With arrows and with bows shall men come thither, because all the land shall become briars and thorns. And all hills that shall be digged with the mattock, there shall not come thither the fear of briars and thorns, but it shall be for the sending forth of oxen and the treading of lesser cattle.
What would you say the land's gonna be covered with?
Briars and thorns.
Briars and thorns, okay, see, that was made very clear, right? And so that would be in place of being covered with vines, which, vines and trees, this is the good thing, this is what grows your fruit and your food and so forth, and what gives value to the land. This is when this will be gone, replaced with the briars and the thorns. In Dominica, when we are among the Native Americans there, that the value of their land is determined by the number of trees on the land. See that, which is kind of interesting in its own right. That when they're quoting the price of land, it's okay. Well, let's see, this one has a coconut tree and a mango tree or whatever. So they count the trees, and that's what gives the value to the land. So a piece of land with no trees, the value is very small. But if it's got a lot of trees, then it has a lot of value to it. So like when we came in, trying to buy land for a church building, I wanted one without trees, right? And they're trying to sell me land with trees because they say, well, this is valuable. I'm going to cut them down, right? So I don't want the trees, right? But this is how they value the land, by how many trees or vines will be on there to be able to grow, because that's that's food, and it's food for you to eat, to sell. So it's money, and so that's how they value the land, is by how many trees are on the land. So that kind of ties into this, right? Because the vines or trees that were there are now gone. So in other words, the land is now worthless, because this is what's happened as a result of not doing what God wanted you to do.